I feel like a daytime talk show host right here, man. This is insanity. Folks, I'm not going to bore you with any kind of long introduction. I don't even know what I would title this video, but nonetheless, we've got the one, the only, Mr. Jay Williams here with us.
What's going on?
So this is definitely like right out of left field. I know a lot of people wouldn't be expecting this for no other reason than, it just comes out of the blue. But you and I are two people who served time at the same prison. We were at Indian Creek together on two opposite sides of the yard, so we really didn't even know each other all that well, but we certainly know a lot of the same people.
Yeah, I tell a lot of my viewers, like, I have a crazy, crazy memory. And I remember when I seen you first come on to YouTube, I didn't know how I knew you, but I knew you. And then you had mentioned Indian Creek, and it came to me. You were the painter. Yeah. You had a little comic thing inside the like prison newsletter that came out. You know what I'm talking about? Like the little art drawings and stuff. And it didn't take me long to realize, but yeah, here we are.
So you were in what, 5 building?
I was in 5, and then when I got close to going home, you have 6 as the reentry building. It's like 6 months or less. So I started off like everybody in one building, went from 1 to 5A, then to 5B, then to the whole, then the 6th building. So
again, we didn't know each other. I was in 3B. You're on the 4, 5, 6 side of the yard. I'm on the 1, 2, 3 side of the yard. Indian Creek was a prison that was notorious for grouping and therapeutic community, but you had dudes who bucked, who did their thing. Like you had mentioned, I was a mural painter. I did a lot of the artwork. How were you passing your time there? Were you?
I worked Enterprise. I was in the warehouse.
Oh, so you were bagging up chemicals
all day, and that's where I'd see you and the dude you used to paint with, Fat Dave.
Okay,
big black guy.
Yeah.
Because when we came out to go to the warehouse, y'all were going out of y'all's building to go over y'all gonna paint for the day.
That's wild. You were making more money than I was. You were making what, 85 cents an hour?
Something like that. Balling. 85 cents an hour, big 85 cents an hour.
Damn right, that was the best.
Penitentiary rich up in there.
That was the best pay you could have.
I mean, dudes tell you living large, you're getting all the money. 85 cents an hour, I'm killing them.
Crazy to think, right? Think of what you make now versus then, and it's.
My first job was there though, scrubbing duck poop off the sidewalk at commissary.
Yo, I used to tell people about
that job.
Did it pay good?
I don't know what it paid.
Like 35 cents.
I know like the guy in the commissary window was crooked. So he would like throw stuff out the window during the day for me to take back to buildings.
Yeah.
And I get a big cut of it. So that job had all types of perks. Chow hall workers coming out that didn't want to get caught taking something in the building. Pass the pack off. Now I got the grilled cheese sandwiches on deck.
Yeah, y'all had the way to move shit too, because y'all had the big trash cans that y'all
took from building to building with the chemicals.
Damn right. You could have a whole TV up in there or a couple of them in there.
Whatever. So it was a great job. I mean, you can only scrub with so much duck poop. You know what I mean? You're out there. You've seen the guys doing it. We're there all day. You're at commissary, we're just leaning on like a nasty little duck poop mop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I got into Enterprise. Between that takes up most of your time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I wasn't gonna do. I started the buck program. I didn't have no drug offenses, no alcohol offenses. I wasn't on a robbery charge. So when I show up, we go through group where they talk about this facility. You know how it is when you first come in and you come into intake, and they're saying like there's no violent offenders here, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. That was one of my first thoughts. This is like a drug rehab program. I'm not supposed to be here. So she pulls me to the side and she's like, you're here for behavioral modification. Just another way to just fill a seat, you know what I mean? And I said, I've got to do something. I'm not going to tell them, guys. They want you to write inmates up. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
That when you get this blue dot. And once you get the blue dot, you're like, you know what I mean? Like Indian Creek, you can move around. You can wear shoes to the visiting room. There's little dumb perks you get. But once they realized we weren't going to do it, she came to the guys that I hung out with and me, and she was like, look, y'all just write each other up. Make something up. I don't care. Just say he did something. And you talk to your homeboy, like, you cool with that? And they're like, yeah, I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? So it's agreed on. So you're not telling on nobody. Got the little blue dot. And then we had Charles Chalmers. I don't know if you remember him. He was the guy that ran Enterprise. I went and talked to him, told him I had worked maintenance for almost 8 years at Greensville prior to being at Indian Creek. I transferred from Greensville to Indian Creek. And he said, yeah, your supervisor, the maintenance supervisor called me and told me about you. I've been waiting on you to come in and see me. When can you start? He said, you're forklift certified, you're this, you're that. I'm like, yeah, I worked at the last prison. So I went straight into the warehouse packaging chemicals.
You go there, you're a violent offender, you go there for behavior modification. I was not a violent offender, but I went there for the same thing, behavior modification, because I kept getting in trouble where I was at. Ultimately, they were trying to get all of us there for reentry. That's when reentry really started to become a thing. But you had a mix of people there. You had the youth offenders, the YOs. You know, you had the YOs there, you had the drug offenders, you had the behavior modification guys like us. And like you had mentioned, to get out of one building, the only way you could get out of one building was you had to tell on somebody.
You did.
And there were so many guys there who were against that. I was as well. And just like you had mentioned, you know, you had to work with your homeboy and be like, look, we just got to do this to get up out of there. I want to give Indian Creek one particular solid, and that is one of the things, and I don't know if you knew this about that place. Did you know that you couldn't go there if you had a sex offense?
I didn't.
Yo, so that was the only real good perk about Indian Creek, is you knew that nobody there had a charge like that. But right next door at St. Bride's, that joint was full of them type of dudes.
St. Bride's is off the chain too. You could be on the yard on the 456, and that's a completely different prison. But you could hear them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they wouldn't be outside. You could hear them inside their housing units.
Yeah. It was less than a half a mile away from where we were at.
It's turned up when you can hear the people inside of a brick building a half a mile away.
I just hope a lot of dudes over there were getting extorted because of the high number of dudes like that. You know, I had also mentioned the job that you had cleaning duck shit off of the sidewalk. I made fun of that job in the past, and this was, 5 years ago when I first was telling the story about that, because I actually did draw a comic that was in that newsletter about that particular job. But like you had mentioned, it was the move. There weren't a lot of sweet gigs that you could have while you're in prison. And some of the worst gigs is, forget cleaning duck shit, you could be in there cleaning showers.
Oh, man.
And now you're dealing with the sharks and the minnows and all that wild stuff. So your job was good because you got to move around. And
All day.
And you didn't have to go to group.
No.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing we were trying to do. Everybody's trying to duck group.
That's it.
How can I get out this building? Can I put in something to go up to Smith Hall, or my stomach hurts, I'm going to medical? Anything to not be in that chair when everybody starts pulling chairs up in the morning. And guys would see us, like the warehouse workers, they'd see us, our chair would never come up there. They'd be all pulling up, everybody's all tired and pissed off, and we walk right by them and out the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, y'all have fun grouping, man.
Damn right. Look, one other thing that I talked about Indian Creek, and then we'll move on. I talked about this in the past. You had so many young counselor girls there, and so many women were getting walked off that compound for them relationships.
Every week.
Yeah.
Every week. You could be talking to a woman today and not knowing that she's like in a full-blown relationship with the guy standing behind you.
Oh, yeah.
And the next thing you know, you've got a new counselor in there, and you see the guards walking her down the boulevard.
Yeah, because if she ain't going to talk to the next man, he going to tell on her.
Right. And absolutely, get you out the way. Get somebody in here that'll do it.
I had, a few, I don't want to say a few, I had like one or two chicks in there that were relatively cool with me. And I don't know if they liked me like that or not, but I remember one girl was in there literally crying to me. And I think she was crying about like her relationship either with the guy on the street or maybe the guy in the prison. I'm the mural painter, so, I'm out the way. I'm at the gym doing something.
Your place is where nobody else is at. When everything's empty, you're in there.
So she was in there like crying to me, and I'm like, yo, man, like, I don't know if this is like the green light for me, or all I can tell you is you better get your shit together, because if somebody sees this, hey, you're getting walked up off of here. And no bullshit, she ended up getting walked off.
And you're potentially going to the hole and getting shipped.
Yeah, I wasn't even doing it. Now, don't get me wrong, I wanted to, but, ain't nothing come of it. Indian Creek was a wild place, and it's wild to know that you and I were both there, and we never even, dealt with each other because we were just in two different lanes, essentially.
Yeah, well, you dealt with people I knew. Like, you've got pictures with Little Bubba that I interviewed.
Little Bubba was my homeboy.
I know you've got pictures with him. I know you were on the soccer team. My tattoo artist, Chop, he was a Spanish dude. He was on your soccer team.
Okay.
He's in the picture I've seen on one of your videos. And then a lot of the guys you deal with, like, I guess, YouTube and your personal life. Like, Dave. Yeah. I remember Dave. I remember Dave being religious.
Yep.
Not that if that's a good thing or bad thing, if he's ever shared that, but I remember Jellicoe selling peanut butter and the flicks, you know what I mean? He had the nude pictures. You pick up on these things, and I remember these guys, Even if I didn't deal with them, if I saw you, I stayed, coming from a place like Greensville to Indian Creek, you're super alert. You're always watching your surroundings because you're so used to just crazy stuff happening.
Yeah.
So you would look at characters, say like Dave and Jellicoe, and you remember them. You just remember the guys around you, and that's been a gift and a curse for me, I guess.
Well, let's go ahead and move on a little bit, man. There's so many different things that we could talk about, and we could spend a lot of time doing this. But I want to talk about you and your YouTube success. You come home, you become successful doing YouTube as well. One major difference between you and I is you end up going back to jail.
Yep.
You go back to prison too?
Yep.
I want to hear about what the hell it's got to be like, because at the time that you went back, and I don't know, the ins and outs of your case, and that's not important, but what the hell is it like to go back and you're at the height of your success damn near in social media? You're a YouTube star.
Right.
Does that carry over, you getting locked up, people recognize you from these videos that you're doing? Are they in there trying to ride your coattail? Yo, hey, Jay, man, hey, when I come home, look, let's link up. Are there problems from that?
Let me see. It was crazy. Well, to start off, I went back for looting. Like, I'll just get into that because people, why this, why that? I went back for looting, for a high-speed chase. I got into an argument, a petty argument, like nothing crazy, nothing violent, nothing too outrageous. Me and my wife got to arguing outside of a movie theater walking to the car. It was stupid, you know what I mean? But it was no more than just an argument. Someone sitting in their car who had nothing to do with the whole situation, who was not even really close enough to us to really see what was going on, called the police. I had a phone in one hand and my key fob in the other, right? Because we're coming out going to the car. And we're standing beside the car and my hands are moving and we're talking. So we end up leaving. My sister's listening to these scanners, and the lady out there in the parking lot that night called the police and said I had a gun.
Holy moly.
Told the cops that I 100% had a gun, and that me and some female were going at it, and I was waving a gun around in the parking lot. So the cops put warrants out for my arrest for violent felon in possession of a firearm, brandishing a firearm. So later that night, I leave my house. I now know they have warrants for me. And with my history, I do not believe or feel like, and I was right in the fact of they're going to give me a bond. They're not going to want to hear what I've got to say. I'll have my day in court, and that could be, how court goes, 5-6 months down the road from now. I've got a family. I'm not trying to go to jail tonight. So the cops try to pull me, and I'm in my Charger. And just being stupid, I took off. I took off. I took them on a high-speed chase. I eventually pulled over. Got tased a couple times. That sucked. And from there, the process started. So I ended up hiring Craig Cooley. Craig Cooley was the D.C. sniper's lawyer.
Oh, really?
Amazing, amazing man. Shout out to Craig Cooley if you see this. He did the footwork. He put his feet on the street. He went and talked to people. He went and watched the video footage from this is outside a movie theater. They've got cameras. This is Regal Cinema. He watches the video footage. We go to court, and he's like, throw this out. Throw it out. And they ask him why, and he's like, there's no gun. There was never no gun. There was never no signs of any of that. This is someone sitting in a car from 80 feet away with other cars in front of them, and they're looking through it, seeing something. There was no gun. So all that gets tossed out. I get hit with the eluding, with the high-speed chase. They come at me with 3. The lawyer tells them, this man hasn't been in trouble since 2004, 2005. Like, we're talking 20 years. He's a successful company owner. He's got this. He just does his job. They come back with a year. Now, things are a lot different this go around because I have kids. Small kids. You know what it is to be a dad.
Yeah.
You can't imagine. You don't want to be away from home for a night. You want to tuck little man in. You want to be there when he wakes up. You want to make his meals and stuff. Well, my son is 6 at the time, and now I've got to go away for a year. So it changed really the dynamics of me going into prison, who I was opposed to the first time. First time I went in, I was in my early 20s. Out of control, running the streets 90 miles an hour, sleeping from couch to couch, backpack with something illegal in it 7 days a week. You know what I mean? I was that guy.
Yeah.
This go around, I've got the big, beautiful house. I've got a wife. I've got a 7-year-old son that he's 7 now, an adopted daughter. Like, people need me. I've got employees. So I take the plea. I'm in jail. I go to a regional jail, and they're supposed to give me work release. That was part of the stipulations with my going back in. Well, what they didn't tell me is that each jail is different. And if you've got any history of violence in the past, that jail will not grant you work release, even if the court says you can have it. They write back to the judge and say, look, it doesn't make our policy when it comes to work release. And the judge says, okay, I side with you. We're not going to let someone that was violent 20 years ago get out and go work and take care of his family because maybe he'll do what he did when he was 24. You know what I mean? Unreal. So then I get a kitchen job. I'm in this regional jail where we're locked down 21 hours a day. We're in a cell 21 hours a day. We come out 3 hours here and there, sometimes not at all. So I've got to get out of this pod. I get moved over to the kitchen pod. That's a dorm. This is Pamunkey Regional Jail. They've got a PS4 in there.
Wow.
This is unreal. I'd heard about these things, but I'd never seen it.
Yeah.
Most of the guys that work in the kitchen older don't even know how to turn the PS4 on. So I need to get in here. You know what I mean? I'm there a little over 50 days, working in the kitchen. I've got the cook job, which is like the best job you can get working in the kitchen. I'm eating good, saving money. I'm thinking, all right, cool beans. This is going to be a breeze. I'm in this jail. I'm on this work pod. All right, cool. They come in one morning and they wake me up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And you know that's when you go to DOC.
That's crazy. You got a year and you're going back to prison.
Look, man, I have been in this jail now, I think, at like 52 days. You got guys been in there 18 months waiting to go to prison. I've been in here 52 days, and they're shipping me. So they come to get me up at 3 a.m., and I'm like, what are we doing? He's like, grab your stuff. I said, I worked yesterday. I'm not going to work the breakfast shift. I work lunch shift. He's like, oh, no, you're not reporting to the kitchen. You're going down to booking. And I said, what do you want me to grab? He's like, well, don't bring any. You can't take any canteen. You're not taking your cosmetics.
You're not even realizing you're going to prison.
I picked up on it real quick
Yeah.
when he told me I couldn't bring anything.
Well, yeah,
I
for
said,
sure.
I said, where am I? Am I going to court? Do I have a new case? And he's like, I don't know, man. DOC's coming this morning. And as soon as he said that, the whole dynamic of everything changed. It was like, oh, these people are here taking me back to prison. They're really here after 52 days to take me back to prison. This is crazy. So I go down, I dress out, and it's the process, the black box. Your wrists are all tore up because you've been in these black boxes all day long in the back of this van. And we go from there to, where the hell did I go? Nottoway. And we come off, and it's crazy, Joe. This goes into you ask, like, people noticing me. I step out the back of the paddy wagon. We pull through the first set of gates at Nottoway, and then we pull through the second gate, and you get off, and there's officers standing there. Strip down, take it off, pee in the cup, the whole nine, right? Joe, I come down off the back of the paddy wagon with the cuffs on, and I look up, and there's this black dude standing there with a pee cup in his hand, right? He goes, you're Jay Williams. He's holding the pee cup, right? And I said, yeah, I'm Jay Williams. He's like, yo, this is Jay Williams. I love this guy's videos, right? And I said, I appreciate it. He said, all right, come on in here and get naked and pee in this cup. So it went from he watches my videos, I love your content, take all your clothes off and let me see you put it in this cup.
Yeah.
So I go from there, and Nottoway is notorious. Now, Nottoway, if you look up Nottoway, Nottoway's had a lot of big moments with violent situations that have taken place, to the point that they've got everything has a fence around it. The chow hall has a fence around it. Like, if you come out your building, you're in between the fences. You can't get into anything other than being in between those fences until somebody lets you in. So they take us into the cell, and I've through the jail process, guys recognize me all the time. You know what I mean? I could be sitting at the table with a guy I've been talking to for a week, you know what I mean, off and on, and one day he goes, I know you're Jay Williams, right? And that was a true story. That guy actually died of cancer. Rest in peace to him. But we get to Nottoway, and it becomes apparent real quick, like, you're not, this ain't Oz, you know what I mean? Like, shit's real. You see guys that you've seen in the past, guys that I was doing time with in 2005, 2006. I see them on the boulevard, except they've gotten old. You know what I mean? Here it is, 2024. We're talking 18 years later. That man is still in here, which let me realize something also. I've gotten old. If he looks old now, I've definitely gotten old. And then you see the younger dudes running around now. Prison is packed with young dudes. These youngins that are never going home again. 18, 19, 20 years old. That are really out here following the music, following Instagram, following their favorite rapper, thinking they can go out and drill and do this and that, riding around 3, 4 deep in the car and somebody loses their life. The prison is packed with these young boys, you know what I mean, that don't understand what prison is and how severe shit can get. So usually when you see something jump off, it's somebody that's been doing time, ends up hurting one of these dudes, or like the average stuff where it's the gangs. So I get into one situation. No sooner than I get there, you've got the AB dudes, right? And I've always spoke my mind on it. It is what it is. People don't like my opinion. I don't care. The Virginia ABs that I've ran into in the past, as far as I know, it's not a real thing. When I seen it come onto the scene, and just to reiterate, I don't agree with that type of stuff. So don't tie me to that because I can't grow hair. You know what I mean? But these dudes, when they came on the scene, there was like really nobody from out west, nobody from Cali, nobody from Texas. Just one day, some Virginia dude that was on the yard was like, hey, we're ABs.
I'm running it.
Yeah, I'm the leader. You know what I mean? Let me get my Swazis and all this stuff. Like, I'm that guy,
Yeah.
right? Big warbird on my chest. You know what I mean? So these AB guys, I'd done stories on them, on things on certain individuals. Like, if you're a crud ball or something like that, I will put your name out there. I'm not telling on you, but you're a piece of trash. I'll talk on you, right? As far as when it comes to YouTube. So I'm out on the yard, and I've been at Nottoway now probably a little over a week and a half. And I'm walking, and these two dudes, and the dude walks by him, and he's got these 2 big Swazis on his chest, right? And you know how you can just feel it. Like, when something's about to happen, you feel it. Everything, like your body feels it. And as they're walking by me, I got that feeling. And I looked and I cut eyes and I caught the one guy making eye contact with me. But as soon as I made eye contact with him, he cut his eyes away. That let me know, I've done this before, right then and there, that there's something here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not dumb. So we make laps again, and we're coming towards where they got this. Nottoway's got a massive weight pile on every yard. They got this big slab out there with all these free weights. And as I'm passing by, the dude's like, "Yo, you're Jay Williams, right?" And I knew, like, you're not just approaching me to talk. And I said, "Yeah, I'm Jay Williams. What's up?" He said, "You're the YouTuber dude, Jay Williams, right?" And I said, "Yeah, well, what's up?" He said, "So you think the ABs are a bunch of bitches, huh?" I said, "You just said that. I didn't never sign that. I never said that. Like, to me, it sounds like you're projecting." So I'm looking at his homeboy, and I'm looking at him, and as he's approaching, he's got his fist clenched. There's nothing to talk about. We're not going to continue a conversation when your energy's all off just approaching me. So he gets within arm's reach, and I tag him. Bang, bang, and he falls back, and there's this concrete slab right there with weight piles, right? So there's another dude walking the track that I know, like a black dude, and he comes, he's like, chill. There's a perimeter vehicle driving around. And if we continue to fight, they're going to see it. At this point, they've not caught the punches that were thrown, right? So they continue to drive. Now he's standing, and there's this slab where the weight pile is, and that's behind him. And I go in again. You know what I mean? Because we're not just going to do this. You're not going to run me up off of here. I'm grown. You know what I mean? And so we get into it again. He falls back on that slab and hits his head. And the same dude that told me, perimeter vehicle, chill, grabs me like, come on, go, leave it alone. That was the end. That died right then and there. Like, it was over with. We fought, we got it out the way, you had an issue, and I kept it moving. Things like that those are those unavoidable moments. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking for trouble. I don't owe anybody anything. I'm not talking about anything. I'm minding my business. But then that was the only really bad interaction I had as far as results of YouTubing. Everything else was, I'm sitting with a dude named Bronson. Shout out to Bronson, my guy AR, man. What's up with you? I think he's at CCAP now. That's the alternative program for drug offenders, right? Now I've transferred from Nottoway, right? And Nottoway, just a little more Nottoway. Nottoway was just all the way gone. There was so much fentanyl and K2, and it's not like when we were in there. When we were in there was actually like narcotics in prison. Everything in there now is synthetic. From the Suboxone, the spice,
I don't even know the names of half of this stuff. You got the Waka and the Flocka.
That's all spice.
Yeah.
That's K2. Yeah. And these guys are smoking this stuff. And I've seen it so much. The first thing I noticed when I walked into the housing unit, Joe, was that Nottoway's an older prison, so it's a gloomy environment. But you walk in, and it smells like burnt paper in here. It smells like they're burning trash in here. Like, not a hint of burnt paper. It smells like burnt trash in the pod, right? So I get a cup, I go to the microwave, and I go to put my cup in the microwave, and the whole inside of the microwave is just toasty. It's got little burn marks in it because now guys are not popping sockets. They are
making the fire in the
but
microwave.
They're throwing the staple inside the piece of tissue, throwing it in the microwave, and that's how they're starting fires, right? And the smoke smell of burnt papers, they're smoking spice stuff on paper. It's sprayed on the paper. So they're smoking and inhaling the paper all day long. And it's a lot of guys doing it. And they're acting crazy.
I saw a video recently from a sheriff down in Florida, and he says that shit is literally just Raid bug spray, sprayed on paper, dried, and that's what people are smoking.
Look, I had a homeboy, right? And I'm not going to put his name out there, just go around. But we were at State Farm, which is the old Deep Meadows. They shut that down. Now it's called State Farm, right?
Okay.
He works at the milk plant that's over at Powhatan. And he goes over there one day, and he's got these papers in his pocket, right? And he said he's doing something. He's in his closet. He said there's a can of wasp spray. He says, so he looks at it, and he's like, I wonder. So he takes this wasp spray and sprays all this paper, right? Leaves it there, comes back a couple days later, sprays it again, and then folds it up and takes it back inside the institution. And he said dudes were coming back, like back to back. And it was yellow paper. You got any more of that yellow? You got any more of that yellow? He's like, Jay, they're smoking wasp spray.
Man, that shit crazy. I remember him smoking orange peels and real tobacco leaves right off of the frickin' plants, getting their head blown off because this is unprocessed tobacco. When you couldn't get no roll-ups, dude's got this huge leaf trying to cure this thing in the microwave.
Smoking a whole entire backwoods.
Man, I hit this shit one time, man. I swear to God, that shit about took my head off. I said, man, I'll never do that again.
Smoking a stick.
Somebody just texted me and said, do you want me to send you some crime scene photos? Oh, shit. Okay, now I know who that is.
I hope you know who that is.
Thought somebody was messing with me for a moment, man. Hey, I got to jump in here real quick and say something. You know, I've been told by a lot of people that, you know, Joe, you tell stories really good. Yo, you're a hell of a storyteller, man. Like, you got away with it. And I'm just going to call it for what it is. When I was successful, when I had my really good run with YouTube, of course, I was one of the first people to start this thing, so a lot of people came after me, and I used to be so freaking offended by that. It's just calling it for what it is. It's like having a hustle, and you want to hold that thing tight to your chest, or maybe it was just me and I was just a piece of shit for that. But I never thought that nobody could do it like I do it, right? Like, oh, I'm decent at telling stories. That wasn't me feeling myself about the situation or being like with this ego. I just knew I was good at telling stories. Where I'm going with this is, I would always think to myself, okay, there's going to be other people who try to do the same thing, tell stories, and everybody's got war stories if you've been to prison. And I've seen other people who have told stories, and they're not that damn good. But Jay, man, you got a way about the storytelling, man. You're really good at sharing your experience. And what you were just sharing about being at Nottoway, this is a place I've never been to. This is a level 4, right? To share about what you went through with those AB dudes because of the prison YouTube, hey, that's some wild shit, man. I think to myself, as you're saying that, like, what would I do in that situation? And that's all you can do.
Well, there was never, and somebody asked me this, there was never any point of going back that was scary. You know what I mean? The scary part is like leaving your family. For sure. That's a scary part. Letting the people that depend on you down, that need you, your kids, like, that was a scary part. I knew the possibility always existed. It's like there's no telling when I go out to the yard today or I turn this corner who I could bump into. You know what I mean? Because I've done a lot of prison content, a lot of stories. There's a lot of different characters. And a lot of those guys are never coming home again. You know what I mean? And then you got guys that are trying to make a name for themselves. I don't know if that guy thought he was going to come over there and that he just didn't believe the hype, or he thought that I was just a YouTuber or something was different. But it definitely had its moments. But then there was a lot of great moments. You know what I mean? Like, I met a lot of good guys along the way. And then a lot of guys, I'd be sitting in the chow hall and catch somebody eyeballing me. And it's one of those things again, like, what is this? You know what I mean? And before they leave, they walk by the table and they're like, what's up, man? I love your channel. Great to meet you, Jay, man. It's crazy you in here, though. Guess you needed some more content, but nice to meet you. And we dap up, and I got that a lot. Even from a guy I sat in the pub one day I was telling you about, that guy AR named Bronson. He's a Spanish guy, heavily tatted. You know what I mean? Like, looks like he's about that life, and he is. And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching the TV. The Olympics are on. Now, they love sports, and especially females running on a track or anything related to a female in the Olympics.
Track and field is huge.
Yeah, so they're watching this, right? And this guy's sitting beside me, and I keep catching him looking at me. And I look at him, I said, what's up, man? Like, it's to a point now I've noticed it. And he goes, yeah, you're Jay Williams. I knew it, man. What's up? Like, so it had its good moments and its bad. But you got to think, I left, it was a complete shock. I went from living one way, driving, whatever I wanted to drive, buying the cars I wanted to buy, living in the house I wanted to live, shopping the way I wanted to shop, to waiting on commissary. I go from this California king bed, master bedroom, his and her sinks, you know what I mean? The jacuzzi tub, the walk-in shower, to dark gray 6x8 cell with a guy that snores and farts all the time. You know what I mean? It was a complete it was gut-wrenching. Gut-wrenching. Imagine today you don't go home and you don't get to see your little boy and you don't get to see your wife. Instead, you end up in the back of a paddy wagon. And it'll be another year before all of this is behind you again. So there's that. And then there's you've got to try to maintain the lifestyle you were living while you're gone. YouTube numbers ain't going to do what they were doing now that you're gone. The construction's not doing anything because now you're gone. So it was a lot this go around. Just what I left them to deal with was probably the hardest part of everything.
I'll never forget when the situation was taking place with you when you were getting locked up. People would comment, every so often, or maybe even a lot, saying, Joe, what are your thoughts on the Jay Williams situation? And obviously I don't know anything about it. So I'm just like, hey, I wish dude the best. It's crazy he's getting locked up again. But I do remember saying specifically, is that a power move? If you're a prison content creator, is going back to prison a power move? And obviously you've shared that it's not. For content, and maybe that's just a little childish, thinking about it that way. But I want to go with this. You were talking about the YouTube numbers aren't there. Your construction definitely wasn't there. Were you trying to do content while you were locked up?
Yeah, but it wasn't. The plan I had going in was I was going to interview people. Like, you can do that. They've got the tablets now. I've seen you've done it. Like, I can actually set it up. You can set an interview, and I was going to interview people. The jails weren't having it. Mm-hmm. They found out who I was when I got in there. And they told me immediately, if you get on, try to get other inmates telling their story, putting them on camera, exposing anything that's got to do with anybody else, period, whether it be the jail or the guy you sleep next to, we'll shut down your tablet. That's it. We'll turn the videos off. So that died. What I would do is I would call in, and I had a good friend, Zebby. Shout out to Zebby, man, who I would call in. And I would just more or less, thank you for choosing Global Telling. And you good, Jay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And they would put the phone down and hit record. And I would, man, you already know what it is. Jay Williams, Let's Live Life. And we're back this week. We're going to be touching on this, and this with an update. So I was still doing what I was doing, just differently. You know what I mean? There's no camera recording me.
You were getting numbers with that, though, right?
But that was still doing numbers. But then in the midst of all of that, something that I never saw coming came, and that was taxes. Large amount of taxes that I owed from this venture and this little thing here, that rather than, and we had moved, we got a new house. We've been in this house a couple of years, so all those papers are going to an old address. So I'm not getting notified of none of this stuff until I get a letter from my bank one day that says notice of levy. And when a levy goes in place, everything stops. They now they cap all, they lock down all your money. They levied my Google AdSense. And immediately all the checks that were supposed to be going to my family for my content started being put in to this day, Google has still not turned the money over to the IRS. And this has been over a year. And it would be, within the first few months, they had accumulated $60,000 of my money that should have gone to my family, that was put into this account that never even went to the IRS. So that was the bread and butter. That was taking care of the family. But the good thing about things is, like, I buy things and act like a little more than I should sometimes when it comes to vehicles, shoes, things of that nature. And I'd always told my wife, I don't know if, I didn't ever expect anything to happen, but I told her if anything ever happens to me, all this stuff, shoes that cost a lot of money, cars are worth a good amount of money. If anything ever happens to me, this stuff will take care of you and the kids. Once the money's gone, get rid of this stuff. And that's what I had my wife do. But Jay, would you love this? No, I love y'all. There's a difference. I like that. That's cool. It's nice to have. It's pretty to look at. I love you. There's a big difference. So she did as I asked her, and she was able to hold things together. It was scary not knowing if I was going to come home or ever see my home again. Imagine you're home. You've decorated with your wife. You know where everything is. You go to jail, you go to prison, and you potentially never see this again.
Yo, you had a rough ride, man. I mean, Jesus, forget the fact that you got locked back up again, and here you are, you're maintaining, and you got this great idea to record these phone calls and to still be able to do content, and then here comes these freaking taxes that just basically, levy you like they did to your bank account. Does your wife have to sell everything?
Not everything. She got rid of the things that belonged to me, that I told her to. And at the time, I had the Hummer, the Chevy Avalanche on 24s, the Escalade on 26s, two F-150s.
Was all of this coming from YouTube? Like, did you blow up that?
No, I was making, anybody that knows me will tell you, I was making great money prior to YouTube.
Okay.
With the construction company, I was easily clearing $10,000 a week.
Wow.
That was me. That's after all the payout. I had, at that time, really good guys. We had great investors, and we were cranking out work. I'm talking about turning in $16,000, $17,000 invoices every single week, every Friday, picking up a check that goes between $15,000 to $25,000.
Holy moly, yeah.
So I was doing really good before I came to YouTube. But then once YouTube came, and you got to remember, I'm what I like to call one of the COVID babies. Like, of course, you were, and I'll give you your flowers. You need them while we're here, but you were one of the first guys I had ever seen do prison content. Now, I know there's other guys, but for me, you were the first one I ever saw. And then through watching you, it led me to other prison content creators. You know what I mean? And when COVID hit, everybody was at home. Nobody had anything to do. Like, they're talking about you're going to go to jail if you go here, or they're putting up glass in this store, and the dividers here and there. You can't go outside, really. Everybody started watching YouTube, Joe. Like, the numbers since then have never been, I don't think, as high for any content creator. But I was one of the COVID babies. I was just doing my regular content. And I'm sure you can relate, because this is most of our stories. One of my videos went viral. Like, I went from just doing okay numbers to I'm on to something here. Something just happened.
What video was it?
Raped in a prison shower.
That shit had to be demonetized.
Absolutely. But I've told people, sometimes things get your foot in the door. You may not make nothing off of that, but you learn from, okay, I can't say all that crazy because I'll never make any money off that video. That video's got millions of views. But what it does is now you're in the building.
Yeah, it introduced everybody
Now
to you.
I can do this video, this video, this video. Don't say that. Don't be so graphic. Don't put that on the thumbnail. You know all the things you learn as a YouTuber. And I've told people in the past, and I don't care about sharing the finances. I was waiting. I went from not being monetized, Joe, to monetized overnight, right? So now I'm waiting on that. Remember them days of waiting on that 4-digit AdSense code in the mail? They said they had sent it twice. Months have gone by now, and I'm watching this Google AdSense account, and I'm seeing money that's like $30,000, $40,000, $60,000, and it's just piling every month, and I can't get to it. And then one day, the code shows up in the mail. My wife calls me at work, and she's like, "Jay, you have something here from Google." I said, "Open it, open it, open it." So she opens it, and she's like, "It's a letter, and it's got 4." I said, "Give me the numbers." She gives me the numbers. I type it in. Your Google AdSense code has been accepted. Welcome to the partnership program.
Boom, checks in
baller.
Checks in the mail.
So, as you know, we get paid on the 21st. I had a little money, already before this. But that morning, we slept in. I'd been just working late hours. And I got an alert from my bank telling me I had a recent deposit, right? And so I wake up, I wipe my eyes. I'm like, deposit. And I open it. And it's $86,000
Man.
deposited into my bank account, right?
You hear this?
Yeah, I hear this shit.
This is COVID. COVID, Joe. Look, I sit there for a minute, and it's one of those things where I close my phone screen and sat it down, and you just kind of scratch, like, You pick it back up, and you open it, and you're like trying to adjust your eyes and wipe them again because it's got to be wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, it's recent transaction, 86,000, such, deposit to the bank, and I just sit there for a minute, I'm like, my wife's still asleep and I'm tapping her. Hey, you got to get up. Because she's one of the ones, we got kids. Why are you going out to the garage again? You're back out there recording. What are you doing? You know what I mean? She's with the kids. She doesn't see what I see at the time. And I woke her up. Because when I'd showed it to her in the past, she thought it was like one of those online gaming things you play where you've got like $1 million, but in reality, you have like a $2 PayPal card.
Right.
I keep showing it to her. She's like, Jay, there's no way they're going to give you all that money. That's just... she's not understanding what's going on. I wake her up, and she rolls up and she's like, "What? And I'm like, "Look." And she's like, "What?" And she looks at it, and she looks at it again, and then she looks at me. And the first, I'll never forget what she said. She said, "What did you do?" Like I'd done something wrong. She didn't see the Google part. She just seen the deposit. She's like, "What did you do?" And I was like, "I don't know, but I think I did it."
Yeah, no shit.
Whatever it is, I did it. And from there, I became a YouTuber.
Good for you, man. Look, real quick, I want to share my first check, right? Because this is freaking insane. I'll never forget my first check. My first check was like either $6,000 or $8,000. Never had seen no money like that. I was working a job making $14 an hour. So for me, that was life changing. But from there, my first check was like, it must have been $8,000. It was a couple of months accumulated. I had one video that went viral. Yeah, whatever. But then my second check was like $12,000, and I was like, "Oh shit, man! Like I'm making $500 a week at my job,
Moving on up like the
Man,
Jeffersons.
Yeah, so it's life changing money. It was, and it can be. Look, we should wrap this up. We really should, because this thing could go on for days. It could go
That's
on.
awesome.
It could go on for a long time. I think what you and I have done right here could be the start of something.
Absolutely.
I'd love to come up there, do something with you, and anything that you want to do for your channel. If you want me to be a part of that, do an interview, anything that you want to do. Not that I'm doing much these days, but I'm gonna get back, man. As hard as you was in that garage grinding, being the COVID baby, hey, that's Joe right now. And
I'm glad to see you back, man. I've talked to people. I'm glad to see you back.
I appreciate that,
people
man.
can say what they want. They can love you. They can hate you. They can never take from you the fact that, you started this gangster shit.
Well, I taught people a lot of what not to do too, and
Right.
a lot of why people hate me is because of how things ended with other people. And I'm sure you can attest to the fact you can't control what's going to happen with everybody, man.
No.
You could wish the best for them and want it to go well, and I'm not blameless in that. I made a lot of mistakes, but at the same time, you try, things don't work. At the end, I was the one who wore the blame for it, which I wear that. To some people, I'll be the enemy, and that's okay.
But dude, if they're not hating on you, you're not doing something right. Somebody told me that one time, and if you're nobody, nobody's talking about you.
Yeah. Well, Jay, man, look, absolute pleasure meeting you today, brother. I'm going to look forward to doing some more work with you, and wish you nothing but success.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Thank y'all for watching.